in terms of the win, the points that go with that, in terms of winning Group A if possible, and good run-outs for some of the younger players. And then later on, as we've just seen, some of the senior players with Everton at the weekend and indeed PSV next week. Kevin Campbell and Martin Keown have been watching with me. Is that fair? Is that pretty much what Arteta would have wanted from tonight, Kev?
Yep, take the win. Dominated game for long spells, but not clinical. And I think that's starting to creep into Arsenal's psyche, not being clinical and not putting teams away. And you give them an opportunity to get back in the game, and they've made it harder, probably harder than it should have been.
But they've got that momentum back again after losing the game at the weekend, and they needed a reaction. Some great performances on show. Marquinhos was, I mean, he looks like a take two of Saka, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know, left-footed player, playing on that right wing, and 1 assist, 1 goal. Really, I mean, that's a real plus for the manager now, because you can look upon him and say, OK, we can bring you in if we need him to come into the first team. So good options now, and the youngsters have done well tonight.
Yeah, I guess pluses and minuses, what you're both picking out there. Interesting that when the senior players came on, it got a little bit more disjointed. In fact, it was the starting 11 that looked a bit more in control. Yeah,
it's funny how football works. Sometimes when you do get on the pitch, it's difficult to get to the pace of the game. And because the other players are in a rhythm, it seemed that Odegaard and Saka couldn't get into the rhythm. But, you know, you go through, you get the 3 points. That's really important in this game.
What I'm sure Mikel Arteta would point to is the combination of the 3 younger players that got their chance tonight to put that move together that creates the opening goal.
Yeah, and it's the confidence. We talked about having that class in possession. I saw lots of that tonight. Marquinhos, look at that from Vieira. Great ball into the channel. We talked about Nketiah and his movement. Then look at this for a pass. I mean, that off your weaker foot. And then this finish, because the ball just lifts. Yeah. Before it comes into him, Kevin, and it's a wonderful finish for him.
It is a wonderful finish, but, you know, you've got to give Marquinhos credit. Eddie Nketiah stretches the pitch really, really well. Has a look up, and let's be honest, Marquinhos makes up the distance really well. And you know what? For 19-year-old, what a superb finish. Really good finish. Shows his emotion as well. His first goal for the Arsenal, and what an absolutely great goal.
The first of many, hopefully. I mean, he's got a huge future ahead of him, and that's a real opportunity now ahead of him. I mean, Saka is only a couple of years older than himself, such is the quality there, but he's going to get chances.
You'd hope so, because I would think he's shown his promise there. Do you like what you see of... I mean, he doesn't look 19, does he? He looks physically robust and quick.
He looked a little like a Canterbury-type player. The way, you know, he's short, stocky, a really explosive pace, and he was very classy. You know, he picked and chose his moments. He whipped a couple of crosses in. This is him early on in the game. I mean, really good quality here. I mean, Arsenal really should score at this point as well. It's coming to the ball. What about that for a ball?
You've got to score.
It's there to be put away.
Xhaka's got to score,
yeah.
And he just kept on. He kept on producing. You know, came there, and that was just before he scores this goal. And so it just hasn't affected his confidence. It was an awkward ball that came up on his good foot, and then he produces this type of finish. So, no, I think it's great news. This is, you know, we've seen Saka, we've seen Smith Rowe in this very competition start their careers. I think we're seeing another star here in the making.
But this delivery is fantastic. The bit I like about that goal is the cross takes the defender completely out of the game, and good finish by Eddie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll come back to him. But the penalty is also Nketiah's, I'm going to say fault, that's a bit harsh, but he makes an attacker's challenge.
Yeah, it is. And look, sometimes when you're back there as a striker, the best thing you could do is not make a challenge. And, you know, Eddie tries to be good by getting back, but, you know, that's a penalty. And he's got it. The
defender makes a lot of it, doesn't he?
Of course he does.
And rightly so. He just goes to ground. He won't be doing that again.
No, I suppose you might also, as a centre-half, say that ball's travelled a long way to get to those 2 players. It's kind of bounced through the middle of the box and no one's really taken control of that situation, and thus the penalty's
well, that's it.
And
it's just about learning, isn't it? And this is a really good learning experience. There's been a really good atmosphere there for these young players tonight, and that's one of those where, you know, he switched off a little bit. He's ball watching, and when it bounces, he just puts a leg out. It's almost a lazy challenge.
It's a lazy
challenge.
And
then he gets punished.
Yeah. His body language probably tells you what he's thinking.
Absolutely gutted.
Yeah. But as much as it's coolly taken by FC Zurich. In fact, I think it's the centre-half who steps up, but he's as cool as a cucumber, and that's obviously levelled things up. Yeah. Arsenal came out and decided, no, we'll make amends for that in the second half.
Yeah, I thought Arsenal stepped it up second half, kind of got more positive. We saw Kieran Tierney starting to get even further forward as well with a couple of chances. But Marquinhos, he had the quality. He was the real quality tonight. And what a ball in for Eddie. As I said, took the centre-half out. Great finish by Eddie because he could have headed it back across. But snuck it in the near post. And
it's interesting with Teirney, isn't it? Because I think now we have, with Zinchenko, you've got two really good left-backs fighting and vying for that position. And that's what you want, is competition all over the field. Look at that ball that come in there. That looks like Saka, doesn't it? But it's Marquinhos. Yeah. So we're seeing this sort of blueprint. I like the way the team shape was. It wasn't tricky for them. They've all been watching, observing, and now they're putting it into practice themselves. That's a great little header.
Is that the way it works on the training ground, in the sense that you pick up tricks and skills from your rivals as much as you're obviously competing for the same spots?
Well, they're obviously listening in, and it's a good message. And, that shows that the manager's on it. Because when the next group comes on, that really tells you what the group is picking up, and that bodes well for the future for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think, well, you always say competition for places is a manager's dream, really.
It is, but the youngsters have to be a sponge. Quite right what Martin says. Youngsters have to be a sponge to understand what to do and when to do it. And, Marquinhos was excellent tonight.
And if you're trying to reproduce this on the training ground, you simply can't do it. You've got to put them into a match situation. And the Europa League is perfect for that. If we were in the Champions League now, Arsenal, we wouldn't be able to do this, and we'd be losing some of this development. So we have to see this as like formative years, really, for what's going to come in the future.
And having the ability to make numerous changes, 5 in total, but 3 at the one time tonight, where you can bring 3 senior players on. That's all. The ability to rotate is good for a well-endowed squad.
Well, we've seen Arsenal make the mistake previously by not having the depth. Now they've got the depth. We've seen the youngsters come in, play well, and then you bring in starters on. So Arsenal are in a good position.
Yeah, it's a good start, isn't it? PSV at home next week. You can build on tonight. If you take 6 points from your first 2, you're starting to take control of the group.
100%, and we know PSV will be a step up in class, but we're probably going to see maybe a more recognised 11 that starts the game. But if he wants to make the change, he knows that this group now is capable of performing.
Yeah, he's got Everton before that, obviously, at the weekend at home. So nice problems in a way for Arteta to have. I could play him for an hour, I could start with him. He can sit and ponder those things where perhaps he's felt a little bit constrained by what his first team looks like in the past. Yeah,
very much so. And coming off a loss in the Premier League, Marquinhos and Eddie, I'm sure, will be saying, I'm available.
I'm sure. I'm sure, yeah, as strikers tend to do. Now, before we move on, let's just check on those early evening games in the Europa League. As I mentioned, 1-1 it's finished in Eindhoven, PSV and Bodo Glimt, that of course in Arsenal's group. A 2-1 win for Rennes at Larnaca. 2-1 also for Fenerbahce over Dinamo Kiev. Good to see them back in European competition. Betis 2-0 winners at Helsinki. Roma beaten tonight, Jose Mourinho's team, after a slip-up in Serie A following a strong start. They've lost to Ludogorets on the road tonight. 2-0 Braga winning in Sweden at Malmo. And 1-0 Union have beaten Union Berlin, which is a terrific result for Union, because Berlin, the German side, have been going very well in the Bundesliga.